Hello Canada, welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Tagay. Well, Canada caved. Nothing surprising, nothing new, everybody was expecting it. Of course, they waited till the last moment to try and make it seem like it was a negotiating tactic or something along that lines. But really, there's a lot more going on in Trump's mind's eye than the media is talking about. We're kind of going to go over just the propaganda, Canadian television, and the kind of crap that they typically put out. And then we're going to show you what the American media is putting out. And in this whole kind of dissection process, I'm going to show you somebody who actually explains very well what's going on, and then just show you the proof of how bad Canada's economy is. And nearing the end of the show you what a amazing leader can do, that being, of course, Daniel Smith, with even the horrid economy of Canada and the outrageous end pipeline building strategy of the Liberal Party to shut down the West, still was able to make record profits, is still going through with tax cuts, real tax cuts, not the Carney Liberal fake tax cuts, you know, the ones that are a cup of coffee at the end of a week, real tax cuts for Albertans, and how they're already prepping, like a smart government, for another few years of Liberal hell. Let's get started. We'll start with, well, no better place, propaganda.
CTV News U.S. political analyst Eric Ham joins us now from Washington with more. Eric, good to see you this afternoon. Let's just talk about how the White House is positioning what has happened in the last 12 to 14 hours about Canada rescinding this DST. Trade talks are back on. The White House saying that it seems as though Canada caved in. Is that the narrative really playing out in the U.S.?
That certainly is the narrative that we are going to see this White House continue to push, that they caved. And of course, we heard from Carolyn Levitt, not only did she say that they caved, but of course, Donald Trump being the best negotiator in the world. And so now this is also about a zero-sum game. There are winners and there are losers. And clearly what the administration wants to project is that they are winning and it is Canada that is losing.
The Prime Minister spoke about 5 minutes ago, Eric, over here, confirming that trade talks are back on. He had a chat with the President over the telephone yesterday. Counterparts of Secretary Besson, François-Philippe Champagne, also spoke as they commenced these trade talks once again. Any indications of what transpired in the phone calls? Are we hearing anything from the White House? What did the President have to tell the Prime Minister?
That's a really good question. We did not get any indication from the press briefing just now in terms of what was actually said in these phone calls. And more importantly, if there was some trading that actually took place as to why or how the Prime Minister actually decided to eliminate this tax. Of course, we know the president certainly could have put this on the table before making a big performance of walking away from trade talks. But now that these conversations are ongoing again, I think we'll have to wait and see exactly what deal, if any, actually comes out of this. But look, we knew that this was always going to be a very short window, and it was also going to be very, very difficult for the Prime Minister to get this over the finish line, particularly given how we know performative and mercurial the president can be.
Eric, I request you to stay with us. Let's take a listen into what the Prime Minister said about 5 minutes.
Now, that's quite comical coming from CTV and CBC and all the rest. And they're all kind of saying the same thing, because wasn't it just before the election how they were saying, you know, Carney, with being this huge banker, smart guy, was going to breeze right through this, and he was the best guy to take on Trump. He could do it. Elbows up, everybody. Elbows up. Propaganda. Unbelievable.
So go and I'll come back to you for more.
Last night I had a good conversation with President Trump, and we agreed to recommence our negotiations with a view to the 21st of July deadline that we had agreed in. Kananaskis, Minister Champagne and LeBlanc had conversations with their counterparts as well. We've restarted the discussions this morning.
All right, that's the comment coming in from the Prime Minister.
And in just a moment, I'll play the whole little presser, not just the soundbite video clip that media likes to promote their socialist government with.
In which he also said by July 21st, there should be a deal between the US and Canada. Eric, I want to bring you in on something else we're also tracking coming in from the White House, saying that Trump will be meeting with trade team this week to set country tariff rates. Now, I ask you that because Trump also said on social media over the weekend that he will let Canada know in about a week's time on how they need to do trade with the US. And if we put all of this together, do you believe there are more tariffs coming in?
Well, we heard from the White House today that they said that they are now prepared to begin rolling out trade deals or announce trade deals with other countries, and that the president is actively working with a number of these nations. Now, Canada was not specifically named, but what we are seeing here is they do want to be able to put this on the table because, as we are seeing, President Trump continues to tout a growing economy that is doing robust throughout the nation. And he wants to be able to back that up with these trade deals, suggesting that the administration has used his signature economic policy tariffs to actually win massive concessions from countries all around the world. And I think that's what we've already begun to see with the president talking about the ongoing talks with both the UK as well as with China. Now, when it comes to Canada, clearly, I think this is deeply complicated, as it is with not only trade deals, but with other countries as well. So it's unclear what we're going to see from this administration between now and that deadline. But right now, what we're seeing, at least, is the White House is actually laying the groundwork that they believe they will have something to tout on a number of deals.
You know, this trade relationship between the Canada and the US has been the envy of nations across the world, Eric, because of how easy trade has been between these two nations, the largest trading partners. And now we're talking about a fact when the president says that Canada, quote, is a very difficult country to trade with. The Prime Minister says these are extremely complex negotiations. Putting that into perspective, Eric, can we just one moment zoom out of the trade issue and see how complicated the relationship has become, or where the relationship stands at the moment between these two countries?
Well, look, the relationship is only difficult and complicated because you've got one side that's attempting a hostile takeover of the other. We have to remember there has been seamless economic integration between the two nations for more than 60 years. And quite frankly, it's been beneficial and economically productive for both countries, to say nothing of consumers and its citizens on both sides of the border. But right now, this is becoming increasingly problematic because you've got one side that is now operating under a policy of economic warfare against the other. And I think that's going to continue to make this relationship not only very caustic, but also make it difficult to get some of just the basic parameters outlined because of where we are right now.
Yeah, that's a whole load of verbal diarrhea, and we're going to straighten that out. But first, let's actually hear the entirety of the little presser that Carney gave to straighten out propaganda.
Last night I had a good conversation with President Trump, and we agreed to recommence our negotiations with a view to the 21st of July deadline that we had agreed in. Kananaskis, Minister Champagne and LeBlanc had conversations with their counterparts as well. We've restarted the discussions this morning.
Quelles sont les autres concessions que vous êtes prêts à?
And we'll fast forward.
Anything in exchange for?
We have, to be clear, it's part of a bigger negotiation. It's something that we expected in the broader sense that would be part of a final deal. We're making progress towards a final deal. There's more to be done, to be clear. And as I just said, which answers the translation question, as I just said, is a question of timing in terms of the date for the final negotiations and when the tax was coming into effect. And it doesn't make sense to collect tax from people and then remit them back. So it provides.
Now, if that isn't a blatant lie, nothing is. Because if that was the case, this wouldn't have even made the news. If that was the case, he would have debunked this the second that it was brought up, which it was brought up with the previous administration, the Biden administration. This has been a major thorn in the state's butt. So this is all lies. Our government is broke. They are trying to collect as much taxes as they can to keep up the vote buying socialist agenda. That's what this tax is for. So guess what? This is a big win, yes, for Canadians as well. Because this tax, trust me, it would have trickled down. We would have been the ones paying the majority of it. Guaranteed. So they saved us. Trump just saved Canada a whole pile of more charges on services with the tech field. But now they have to try and figure out where are they going to get all of these billions of dollars from. And even more so is what percentage of that they were going to pay to their propaganda media outlets to keep promoting this socialist party. Canada should be warned. I took some advice, by the way, from if you notice, a light is flickering. I'm borrowing another light as a test light for a ring light. I've still got my old one going as well, but it seems as though it's on the fritz. So if you're wondering what that flashing is, that's what it is. And I want to thank my subscribers as well. I like the advice. Anything that you guys say that you think will help the channel, help you guys get a better, more entertainment out of this, please lay it in the comments. I listen to all of them. I read all of them. And yeah, if it's great advice, I'm going to take it. And the ring light was a good one, especially when I have this big window beside me open. It's just not bright enough, and I end up with this kind of hue thing going on. Yeah. So anyways, that's just a shout out. So thank you. Anyways, let's just keep listening to this absolute lie. It's just lies. They need tax money, people. So they're going to come for us. He's got to get the taxes. He's got to get it.
It's some certainty. And as I just said, negotiations have restarted. We're going to focus on getting the best deal for Canadians. We're making progress. There's more to do, and we'll keep you updated.
The White House says you caved. Is that how it went down? Why pause it and not?
Yes, the White House did say they caved. So let's just listen. Let's just listen to Carolyn Levitt. By the way, this is a strong. These are the women that I have surrounded me in my life. She is positive, smart. She don't take no crap. Probably one of the best press secretaries ever. I have nothing but the utmost respect for it. She don't take no shit from nobody. Let's just hear it right from her mouth.
Go ahead, Alice. Questions on two topics, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I will start with NTD here. First, on Canada. Canada says it's now dropping its digital services tax on American tech companies days after President Trump says he's halting all trade talks with Canada. First, what's the president's reaction to this? Can you tell us more about his call with Prime Minister Carney over the weekend? How did he get Carney to drop it? And also, what's the impact on American tech companies given this latest progress, as the president says he has been fighting for American tech companies?
It's very simple. Prime Minister Carney in Canada caved to President Trump in the United States of America. And President Trump knows how to negotiate, and he knows that he is governing the best country and the best economy in this world, on this planet. And every country on the planet needs to have good trade relationships with the United States. And it was a mistake for Canada to vow to implement that tax. That would have hurt our tech companies here in the United States. The president made his position quite clear to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister called the president last night to let the president know that he would be dropping that tax, which is a big victory for our tech companies and our American workers here at home.
And on Harvard, if you don't mind, the administration today formally...
I'm just going to fast forward a little wee bit, because this I think everybody needs to hear.
Andrea.
Yeah, so President Macron of France earlier today said that tariffs levied by powerful countries are often a form of blackmail, and criticized the sort of process that's underway. Didn't mention the United States specifically, but said that these tariffs are really hurting developing countries. So there's this big UN conference going on. What do you say to that? What is the president, was he aware of that comment, and did he have any response?
Now, there have been rumors in a lot of posts and threads that I follow in order to make sure that I'm always getting all of the stories, and in order to make sure that when I'm building these episodes, I'm getting the most amount of facts as I can squeezed into around an hour long. This has been going on for about a month and a half now. It really came out just after the election when Carney fled Canada and went to the European Union. And actually, even before that, when he did his little quick tour before the actual election, there was already rumors that in his discussions, he and others, Macron and a few of the other leaders there, were trying to figure a way in order to gang up against Trump. They've been having difficulties. And then, of course, now after the election, Carney went to the EU. Right after they had these private meetings, all of a sudden, certain leaders started to come out and kind of start to poke with the long stick, saying how this is like bribery or this is extortion, and throwing these little things. So, in previous episodes, you'll remember I showed where Trump actually threw to Macron in a tweet, "This man has no idea what he's talking about." This is because Trump and their administration is aware that all of these other nations who are slowly falling off the socialist ledge and who are broke and trying to tax the bejesus out of people, which is the reason that we're, in the declining population we're in. We can't afford to have kids when you can't afford to buy a home. So a large portion of the fact of why our birth rate is plummeting is because of taxes. You got to work the individual literally to the dying grave. There's no room, there's no time for kids. So again, and if you know anything about Vance, this is one of J.D. Vance's big things he's trying to promote. And Trump, same thing. So they're salvaging what they can in order to ensure that the wages the people in the United States get go higher, and that they can start cutting the taxes on the classes of individuals who were most and are most likely to have lots of kids. This is a big bonus for their country. The little things that media doesn't like talking about. Now, back to this whole Macron thing. There's, like I said, there's about 7 different leaders now. And Carney, it's like when Carney was there and left, the talk got a little wee bit louder. Now, I expect there's going to be even more crap coming out of Trump towards Canada in the near future, because Carney is trying, along with these other leaders, to figure a way to try and smear Trump the best way they can. Problem is, they're rabbits trying to argue with a lion, and it doesn't work. So let's just let her finish.
I think the president and the White House would certainly reject that characterization by Prime Minister Macron. Tariffs are an effective use of presidential power to bring back the middle class, to bring back our manufacturing industry, which was the backbone of our American economy and has been hollowed out by globalist politicians who have caved to foreign countries instead of doing what's right for American workers. That's why the president is effectively utilizing his authority to wage tariffs and to utilize tariffs, and continues to be in discussions and negotiations on trade to do what's right for America. And Europe and the rest of the world might not be used to that, but President Trump is back in town, and he's going to do what's right for our people and our country.
Can I just follow up on
Boom.
Netanyahu?
That's the truth. Now, I'm going to go to this Fox Business. Listen carefully to, the reality of what, and now I could have shown, because I had clips from Australia, I had clips from the UK, and a lot of them are saying the same thing. Canada's broke. And Trump knows this.
Canada is rescinding a digital services tax on America's big tech. Economist John Lonsk with me. Do you think the US and Canada will reach a trade agreement very soon? Because they rescinded this tax after President Trump threatened big-time tariffs.
Yeah, they responded, I guess, in the way Trump was hoping for. However, the problem remains. I think the Canadian trade negotiators pointed out that they are going to take their time reaching an agreement with the United States. So they're in no big hurry. You know, after all, I mean, I find it hard to believe because right now, I think aluminum exports from Canada to the United States are being hit with a tariff of about 50%. I believe it's a very stiff, high tariff, but that's got to be hurting a lot of U.S. users of aluminum product. You know,
but on the other hand, I mean, isn't it this deadline? I think it's July the 9th, isn't it? Mm-hmm. If they don't meet the deadline, if the Canadians don't, Trump will just put more taxes on them, more tariffs on them.
And I'm pretty sure that that's going to make some users of Canadian exports in the United States quite angry. They're going to put up quite a fuss. It's going to increase costs, and that might lead to higher prices for American consumers and fewer jobs in those industries that use Canadian imports.
Canadians cave. Because they're vulnerable.
And they might because their economy is doing poorly. It's expected to grow by only 1.1% because their economy is doing poorly. It's expected to grow by only 1.1% according to the consensus. However, the same consensus says U.S. growth should only be 1.5% in 2025 and roughly 1% in the second half. So that's not helping out our cause as far as negotiating tariffs. It's got to be, I think this is worth mentioning, Stuart. The world growth outlook is horrible. Mexican growth, 2025, 0. A goose egg. That's what they're looking for, the consensus. I think less than 1% for the EU, and UK is about 1%.
We're headed for a golden age. Let's just leave it at that. Okay. John, look at this headline from the Wall Street Journal.
They are heading for a golden age. I'm going to... And this is how everybody should be looking at it. Now, again, previous episodes, while everybody out there was all screaming about how the stock market was plummeting, and I was like one of the very only people out there that was actually saying, if you take a look back 6 months, it never hit lower than the lowest. It never got lower than the lowest points that it did during the Biden administration, and everybody was losing their mind. Oh, he's tanking the economies. That was all lies. That was all propaganda. Now, we're going to straighten all of this out. And this is a great panel. And just listen very carefully because they throw a lot of realistic information out there.
Well, that did not take long. President Trump threatening to walk away from trade talks with Canada, and then boom, shakalaka. Ottawa, blink. Canada has now scrapped its controversial digital services tax, a cash grab that would have shaken down American technology giants with millions of dollars in penalties. The president says the time for pleasantries is over.
Canada is a very tough country to deal with, I will say that. And I love Canada.
You have USMCA in place.
I know, but
you'll have to deal with it.
USMCA is no good if they cheat.
What does that mean?
Well, there's been things going on that we don't like, and things going on where they took advantage. And hopefully we'll be fine with Canada. I love Canada. Frankly, Canada should be the 51st state.
Wall Street liking what it sees from the White House. Stocks jumping
now,
to new
I'm going to
highs.
pause it there because what a lot of people are kind of misinterpreting the cheat thing as well. What Trump is referring to there, this is in my opinion, is that our government just unanimously voted to legislate the milk cartel in Canada into law. It will never be allowed to be used in negotiations. They have legislated socialist milk program. The milk cartel is one of the largest rip-offs to Canadian consumers in our history. It not only stagnates any type of competition, it criminalizes the everyday person. There is no more barter. By putting it in, not only did they take control of a huge market, which is pretty all dairy, they made sure to remove all of dairy from being a useful barter and trade system amongst a lot of the farmers and townspeople. This has caused our country generations of grief, generations of, well, huge dollars that you have to spend in order to buy their milk, not my milk or my neighbor's milk. Now, I'm still working on building, it's probably going to be about a 3-part episode on the milk cartel. This is like a major thorn in Trump's other cheek. He's not happy about it. And by them legislating it, our government actually legislating that it can't be part of any barter or negotiations, was a dirty move. Trump knows this. And this is one of the biggest things that Trump wanted to negotiate, was the milk cartel. They hate it down in the States. They absolutely hate it. There is no reason that we can't buy American milk. And everybody right away on the media, they go off and they go, oh no, it's because they use hormones and they use this. Whoa. They have the same systems down there that we have up here. There are some states that do still use hormones. There are some states that still use GMO feed. Oh, wait a minute. Canada uses GMO feed. Right. So, you can put that in the deal if you want to, a comparative milk barter system and no hormones, then you would legislate that in and say, as long as you can guarantee that the milk coming from the States is hormone free, that's good. But how about we say, well, I don't want any GMOs in my milk, like a lot of American producers are now doing. In Canada, that alternative isn't there because we have a milk cartel. There is no competition. I can't go to the store and say, well, I want non-GMO fed dairy cows. This is going to be another big issue. Now, let's just listen to this golden age that Trump is giving to the States while we slumber and the house burns down around us up here in Canada.
Is the S&P and NASDAQ on pace for the second straight day of record closes? So on Friday, when you read the headline about the spat with Canada about the digital services tax, I actually...
Did you roll your eyes at me, Dagan?
No. Oh, no.
Dagan never does that.
But after the fact, I was very unmoved by what Canada was doing because I knew instinctively we could count in hours how long it would take for them to reverse course.
Yeah, blink and you miss it. They blinked and they missed it. And this is interesting. I'm actually curious if how the EU is thinking about this as well, because they've been targeting our big tech companies as well as part of their sort of tariff retaliation strategy. So look, Dagan, I think it's key that they have rolled that back. I think that's smart for negotiations. It allows us to really come forward with full faith. There's no reason why how do I say this? We are the most innovative entrepreneurship economy. The fact that Canada gets to benefit from our big tech companies doesn't mean they get to do a 3% tax. If they want to do that, they should invent some of the cool companies on their own. But guess what? They're not. We are. We're inventing these awesome tech companies that everyone else gets to benefit from. And also quickly, with these markets, Dagan, I will say, pretty astonishing. I think I read a note. We're up 28% from the April 7, April 8 bottom. That's incredible. And June really never sees record highs. You get them towards the latter. You get some January and a lot December in the back half. So the fact that you're starting to seem to, I think this market's really optimistic about some of these other trade deals coming down.
Now, she's absolutely right. But because they don't understand everything that's going on in Canada, I'm going to straighten this out for her. This is the reality of Canada. I'll blow this up so you can read it. And as always, I post all my information in the description so that my viewing audience, my subscribers, can check it all out. You can see, I don't lie. I'm sorry, so sorry. Just the truth, just the facts. Fact. Corporate head offices are fleeing Canada. This was August 7th, 2024. This had already been going on for 3.5 years by the time this article was put in. We had lost so many companies because of the liberal policies and legislations. They are destroying our nation. Companies can't make money in a socialist country. Only government companies make money. And who pays? Citizens. And how do they pay? Removal of rights, removal of freedoms, removal of equality, removal of the entire idea of what a democracy is supposed to be. Welcome to your post-national state. Elbows up. I will post the article in there. Canada is losing corporate head offices between 2012 and 2022. 1 in 20 head offices closed or merged with other companies, according to Statistics Canada data, which track the number of large and mid-sized Canadian-based companies over time. Head office employment has also dwindled, dropping by around 6% since 2012. While Canadian corporate headquarters are concentrated in Ontario, Quebec, Alberta, and British Columbia, almost all provinces have lost head offices since 2012. In some cases, this can be attributed to energy companies exiting, merging, or scaling back their operations. Now, this is what happened from 2012. There was a big oil bump. I know I was working in the industry. There was some heavy fluctuation, heavy downgrades on prices. A lot of the businesses were centralizing in order to try and save as much money as they can. But the majority of losses came from 2018 and up. So, following the oil plunges in 2014 and 2016 and the emergence of an investment-chilling federal regulatory environment. That said, the decline in corporate headquarters and related employment has been broadly based. Now, it goes on and on and on. I urge you, read the entire article. It's financial Fraser Institute. They're really good with their numbers. We're not done. Oh no. Canada's high tax rates are driving talented workers to leave the country. Again, notice the date, January 3rd, 2024. This again was a 4 or 5 year statistical dive. People cannot work in a place where they lose half of their income on taxes and then another 25% gone off every purchase that they do. You add that to the cost of running a business, to the cost of trying to get your employees with good money. We are in an economic downfall. Carney's the general of Governor Turd. He's the guy who has been putting all of these policies in place. He's been sitting in the shadows. Now he's out of the shadows, and all the propaganda's got spotlights on him saying, oh, he's going to fix everything. No, he's not. He doesn't care about you. Unless you are a millionaire invested in his companies, unless you are a liberal donor, you're going to get screwed. It's going to happen. It's already happening. Again, tax rates are too high, as many of us realize. There are numerous data sources that consistently put this country's personal tax rates among the highest on earth. Yes, there are countries with higher marginal personal rates, but there are many more that are lower. Most Canadians, however, are more often concerned about our largest and most important neighbor, the United States. That's where you go if you want to actually make money, because the tax rates are so low. There are states down there that when you own your home, you don't ever pay tax on it again. That is called freedom. You think you're free in Canada? Don't pay your taxes on your owned home or farm. You watch how free you really are when the government comes in and takes it from you. We're not done. It just keeps going. Canada's uncompetitive business tax rates threaten living standards. December 23rd, 2023. According to projections from 2020 to 2030, Canada will be the worst performing advanced economy among 38 OECD countries for growth in person-to-person GDP, a common measure of a country's prosperity. And Canada's uncompetitive business tax rates, which limit economic growth by stifling innovation, discouraging investment, lowering wages, and reducing job creation, are partly to blame. Do you think? Let's just keep on going. Entrepreneurs already leaving Canada due to capital gains hike. Wattpad founder Alan Lau says, date, May 17th, 2024. Tech entrepreneurs are packing up and leaving Canada following the proposed capital gains tax increase from the Fed, says former Wattpad CEO. Now, this has already been kind of gone, and then the CRA, they went and tried to collect it anyways. They're in court right now. Previous episodes, I showed that. Thanks to Franco Terrazino and the Canadian Tax Federation and all of these other organizations who are constantly going in with baseball bats, challenging the federal government and their overreach. And the Liberals who are in control of all of these organizations like the CRA who don't care about you. They don't care. Moving on, let's listen to propaganda.
There is a major development tonight in Canada-U.S. trade talks. Late this evening, the federal government suddenly announcing it is now rescinding its tax targeting big tech companies. The Prime Minister saying talks can now resume. This comes just 2 days after Trump abruptly posted online that trade talks were off unless Canada dropped the digital services tax. It was just hours away from taking effect tonight when Ottawa made the announcement. Sam Sampson is in Washington. And Sam, take us through this late news from the federal government.
So this statement, it says the finance minister announced he is rescinding the tax in anticipation of a mutually beneficial comprehensive trade agreement with the United States. The statement goes on to say, Ian, that both Prime Minister Mark Carney and U.S. President Donald Trump have agreed that parties will resume negotiations with a view towards agreeing on a deal by July 21st this year. So it's plausible to suggest there were ongoing...
Gotta love the wording, right? This is propaganda. So this wasn't Trump's doing. They worked together. Carney worked together during conversations with Trump, and they got rid of this tax so that they could come to a deal. Bullshit. Trump tweeted it out, threw it out in the open so the world could see. You're not dropping this tax. It comes in tomorrow. Drop it or I'm stepping in and I'm going to start smashing your economy even more, because he knows Canada is broke and broken. This is why he keeps using the 51st state. He knows Canada has become a socialist, well, crap pen. We're falling. Not only do we scare the bejesus out of our neighbor because socialism is literally at their door, but he's also seeing what's going on and he's going, oh, this is too easy. This is too easy. They're already married to us because they're a bunch of idiots up there. So all their business is stuck down here, and now their economy's plummeting. Hey, what the heck? We'll make them the 51st state. It's not his fault. It's our own government's fault. Our government put us here. And not just the Liberals, although this was the worst decade for 40-some years, where the first turd destroyed our nation by really pushing this socialist agenda on us. But there were other governments involved in there as well, some conservatives. We've had nothing but horrible leadership. Why? Because they're constantly pandering to that 3% geographical area that controls the entire country. You will never have a real good government when you've got 3% of the entire geography that says, nope, if you don't give us this or you don't give us this, then we're going to vote in the other party and then you're going to lose your seat. We've never had a real conservative government. Why? Because they have to pander. They got to pander to the welfare Quebec. They got to pander to that 3% geographic area. This has got to change. This is where that whole Western independence is flourishing. This is why it's growing at the exponential rate that it's at. People are tired of it. They're tired of the inequality. They are so tired of never actually getting anything they want, anything that they know would be a huge benefit to the entire country, because you have to deal with the fake separatist leeching government of Quebec and that 3% geographic area that is constantly just, hey man, that's where most of the immigrants go, and they get in there, they're like, no, hey, we came here for free money. Give us more or we're voting you out. And this has been going on for decades, for generations. This is why separatism is exploding. We don't live in a real country. It's never really been a fair country because of the way our democracy is set up. When you have got East provinces with the same amount of seats as larger areas and provinces, that's unfair. There's way too many unequal kind of socialist powermonger laws and legislations that has been holding Canada back. The West is tired of it. And I'm going to flip here into what's going on in Alberta at the end of this program. So let's just keep listening to the crap.
Conversations about this through the weekend, right up to the last hour, because the tax was supposed to come into effect tomorrow. But now Canada will not collect this levy, and the finance minister will bring forward legislation to rescind the digital services tax. Carney also said earlier this month, remember, that he and Trump would work to make a trade agreement happen within 30 days. Well, in the statement, the Prime Minister says this announcement supports a resumption of negotiations. And this tax has been in talks for years, going back to the Trudeau government. Sunday's statement uses the phrase Canada's new government a few times, something the Prime Minister has been doing a lot lately, and perhaps signaling that the decisions of the past Liberal government are ones Mark Carney is willing to revisit to make a trade deal with Trump.
Again, propaganda. Do you see how she did that? This is the same Liberal Party. Nothing has changed except for now they're dealing with Trump. They didn't think Trump was going to win. They've had their money on another Democratic win down in the States. This has caused a huge crap storm to all of the world global cabal greenists. The socialist takeover. They've been trying to take over mass amount of companies. They tried doing this back in the day with Kyoto. I was working in an industry at the time, dealing with smokestacks and other types of, the industrial end of it. And everybody that I had talked to and the boards that I had to kind of go and be part of were all in agreement. They were trying to take over small businesses. This never went to sleep. It hid in the shadows and came right back out again in this new carbon pricing. It's just Kyoto 2.0. It is a group of elites who are trying to take power. Global socialist power. This is socialism. This is Socialism TV. The new Liberal Party. And listen to how she said it at the end. Oh, well, this signals that Carney's going to make it different. This signals that they're up and ready to change the policies of Trudeau. It's funny how now they want to throw Trudeau under the bus, but yet even prior to him stepping down, they were, oh, this isn't, oh, we got to do, oh, he's not so bad. Oh, this wasn't such a bad thing. Oh, well, it's in-house fighting. Oh, well. Now all of a sudden, oh, Trudeau was bad. Why didn't they start saying that, 7.5 years ago? Propaganda. So this is the new Liberal Party. Elbows up, everybody. Propaganda.
And just how intense was the pressure, Sam, to lift this tax?
I mean, it seemed very heavy. I mean, Trump straight up said he wouldn't talk anymore about trade with Canada because of this tax. He said it on Friday in a Truth Social post, and he reiterated it again on Fox News Sunday.
You said you're stopping all trade discussions with Canada?
Until such time as they drop certain taxes, yeah. Canada is a very tough country to deal with, I will say that.
But you said,
and I love Canada.
you have the USMCA in place.
I know, but
You'll have to do it.
But USMCA is no good if they cheat.
This tax was aimed at global tech giants that made at least $20 million off of selling digital services to Canadians. So think Meta, Google, Amazon. It was a 3% levy, and it was retroactive back to 2022. So the first payment would have seen roughly 2.7 billion Canadian dollars from American companies alone. But now it looks like that won't happen, and trade talks may resume with the President of the United States.
Sam Sampson report.
Yeah. Now, I'm hoping I don't have to delete this clip out of here. Victor Davis Hanson. This man is brilliant. American. Listen carefully. I'm just going to play it because, yeah.
Hello, this is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. I'd like to talk about our two North American partners, Canada and Mexico. We've been in disagreements on trade and other issues about the border with both of them recently. But here's what's happened. Given all this contention, you would think that Mrs. Sheinbaum and Mr. Carney in Canada would want to cool passion, but that's not what happened. Recently, Canada decided that they were going to enforce the digital services tax. That was something that was passed but not enforced yet. And what it was is a 3% tax on our tech companies, Amazon, Apple, Meta, Google, by anybody in Canada who uses their service. You buy something online, you buy an ad, you pay a fee to any of these, and you're Canadian, then you're going to pay 3%. You're going to have a 3% tax for the use of Canadian consumers, and they don't even have to be in Canada. They can be in the United States. So they're going to charge them 3%. And this is the killer. They're going to enforce the law all the way back to 2022. So all of a sudden, next month, our tech companies, not that I worry about their financial situation, there's $9 trillion of market capitalization in Silicon Valley, but the idea that they're going to be gouged for $2 or $3 billion right in the middle of these heated discussions. And what are those heated discussions? Canada has $63 billion in trade surpluses with us. That's one backdrop. They have an unenforced border. As we close the southern border, some of the influxes of drugs and illegal aliens started to come northward. And of course, they pay 1.37 in NATO contributions. So given that all those are contentious issues, why would the Canadians now create a new tax? I know they passed it a while back, but why would they start enforcing it right now and try to rub our noses? It makes no sense. The same thing is true of Mexico. You know, there's about $1.5 trillion of total trade between Mexico, the United States, and Canada. And if you look at it, most of that growth and wealth is in the United States. Mexico runs about 3 times the surplus that Canada does with us, about $171 billion per year. They have about $20 billion going to their cartels that diffuses through the economy, and they get $63 billion in remittances on top of the $171 billion in trade surpluses. And this is in addition to about 60 to 70 billion going into Central America, some of which comes through Mexico as these people either go into the United States or go back to Central America. So they do profit from that as well. So what am I getting at? Why would Ms. Sheinbaum start saying to us that taxing 2 or 3%, that's what the Senate version is, maybe 4 or 5 in the House, that's unacceptable to Mexico? Or why would she weigh in on the LA riots and say that she's going to protect Mexican nationals. If you're going to protect Mexican nationals, the best thing you could do is say, come home, we want you. Our fertility rate's going down. You have no business in the United States. That's a foreign country because you entered illegally and you're residing illegally. So, bottom line, why is Mr. Carney trying to rub salt in these very painful wounds that we've been going through the last few months by initiating a retroactive, kind of a bill of attainder tax? And if that goes through, believe me, the Europeans will follow suit. And why is Ms. Sheinbaum weighing in on the big, beautiful bill and telling us not to tax remittances, which is one reason why she's opened her Guatemalan border and welcomed people in here and Mexican citizens in here to get that $63 billion? And why would she weigh in this very contentious period in Los Angeles? Disruptive. We have the Olympics coming. We have Mexican nationals spitting, burning on the American flag, waving the Mexican. Don't weigh in. What would be the solution? We don't have a solution, but they are playing with fire. I have a solution. Maybe we could take Mexico and put it next to Canada and let them fight it out with each other and keep us out of it. Thank you very much. This is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal.
No, he's absolutely correct. But he does allude to the final question of why. Well, I think in what he was saying, he also answered the why. When you have got economies that are slowly getting more and more of the socialist tendencies and putting in socialist laws, and their own economies are crumbling, and they don't care about birth rate when they can flood you with immigration, that's what they do. His hint, subtle hint, and this is what a lot of people aren't talking about, is this immigration just insanity. Now, I'm going to show you something. This is actually a UN document. This is what they are doing. Because they want workers, they want to tax you from the time you're born till the time they lay you in your grave. Big businesses, especially this new socialist cartel, and they're crushing just unscientific, carbon's bad, like the life of gas is bad, ridiculousness. This is all a play in order to push this fascist idealism on the world. So they're mitigating the best way they can in order to ensure that our dollar, our personal wealth, is sucked from us in every which way, trying to convince the people that, oh, these are good programs. We're going to pay for this, and don't worry, we're going to raise your kids, and don't worry, we're going to do this for you, and we're going to... It's all socialism. This is the document that proves it all. Right here. And again, I post it all. You have access to it. This is called, from the United Nations Digital Library, Replacement Migration. Now the question, is it a solution to declining and aging populations? Now, if you read through this document, there is a lot. There is 177 pages to it, fine print. I've read this over. I'm going to tell you. They play it out as a question, but they already know their answer because they're looking at it from an economic perspective. The reason our birth rates are plummeting are because we have no time for children. Why do we not have time? We are taxed, like I said, from cradle to the grave. And they want to tax us more. Corporations want all the money, they want all the control, they want all the power. Just like Carney. This is right out of the Book of Values. He completely despises the fact of a democracy. He thinks Marx is the best. If you've read, I say this lots, and I argue with a lot of people who come and they say they'll throw a quote out there from Marxism, and it's a particular quote that makes it sound like, oh, he's such a we need to follow what they're saying. And then I actually fulfill them by reading the entire quote and saying, you're reading this as a book that you think is to teach you something, when in actual effect, It is a book to tell you what not to do. And by throwing the entirety of the quotes or pages out, all of a sudden they shut up really fast. This is the people who are leading us right now. This is the new Liberal Party. No, not Carney's 4-month-old Liberal Party. The Liberal Party of the last 13 years. This is why you have a lot of old school Liberals who have fled the party. They saw the takeover, and none of them like it because they're real liberals. Liberals aren't socialists. Again, it'll be posted below. I urge you to read it in its entirety. It's literally their blueprint, their plan on replacing all of us. And this is why we have open borders. This is what Biden was trying to do. They're all part of this cartel. They're all making millions or billions or trillions of dollars helping out these cartels. Past this craziness. Like I said, I urge you. I know it's a long read. I urge you to read it. This is what they're doing to Canada. Now, the National Post put out, I think they brought out a few very good points. With the digital tax scrap, U.S. Ambassador says he's confident we will have an agreement. Now, I'm just going to scroll down to a little wee bit here. So Hucksta emphasized that free trade between Canada and the U.S. is good for both countries, but that policies such as Canada's now defunct digital services tax are irritants that get in the way. He said the tax, however, was not the only trade irritant irking the U.S. Others include provincial policies that have pulled American alcohol off the store shelves and other anti-competitive measures that make it difficult for U.S. companies to compete in this market. U.S. President Donald Trump has also made it clear that he doesn't like Canada's supply management policies protecting the dairy and poultry industries because they make it difficult for American producers to compete in the Canadian market. There's a lot of issues that need to be covered. Some of them are going to be tougher than others, Hoekstra said. The important thing is that this really sets the table. Elbows up. Now, I'm going to move on. I know I'm going to be a little bit over an hour. I think this is crucial for everybody to hear. This is what a real leader is capable of doing.
Alberta's government is posting a massive surplus for the last fiscal year, a number exponentially higher than expected. While today's fiscal update shows a strong balance sheet, storm clouds could be forming on the horizon as global uncertainty lingers. Mark Villani reports.
The cash is rolling in for Alberta, and the numbers are staggering. An $8.3 billion surplus for the last fiscal year, $8 billion more than projected.
Largely due to higher than expected revenue from energy resources, personal and corporate income taxes, and investment income.
Total revenue skyrocketed to $82.5 billion. Much of that came from the oil patch, where bitumen production soared. Drilling went up 4.4%, and crude production rose to almost 4 million barrels per day.
Trans Mountain Pipeline, now having been open for a little bit over a year, that's really helped lower the differential that Canadian producers receive for their crude.
But spending was also up, a total of $74.1 billion last year, most of it on health, education, and disaster relief. The surplus now comes as the province faces significant uncertainty, including geopolitical tensions in the Middle East and U.S. President Donald Trump announcing trade deals with Canada are off.
Investors are not going to...
Now, I've already straightened this out. Previous episode, Danielle Smith throws it right out there. She was down there negotiating, and that's why the only major tariffs that they're even part of are Eastern problems. She went down there and she was negotiating. She was doing what the media was, and the media was like hammering on her. They were calling her a traitor. They were like, you name it, just total crap, typical propaganda, pushing hate the West, hate conservative values, and really, she's a libertarian. I'm a proud libertarian. This is why I like Danielle Smith so much. It's the libertarian policies and way to think that will lead, a soon-to-be country into prosperity. And not just the country, but the people. Alberta has some of the lowest tax base in all of Canada. In fact, if you work out all of it, they are the cheapest tax base in Canada, averaged right out. Big businesses want to be there. It's still not good because you have to deal with the federal tax, but once Alberta leaves, this changes everything. And Saskatchewan, I keep saying this, and again, previous episodes, we would be so much wealthier. We could be making twice our pension than we make now. We could have twice the Medicare than we have now. Our roads and infrastructures would be better. Our law system would be better. Every single aspect of our lives would be and will be better. But mainstream, oh boy, gotta watch out. Propaganda.
To invest, we're not going to create, more jobs and be all that we can be with this hanging over our heads.
All talks are off until we don't know when. That's what makes me the most.
His big fear is that in the media, everybody started to bring up that, we should use potash. That's Saskatchewan. We should use oil. That's Alberta and Saskatchewan. We should use... They were naming off all of the most powerful tools that Canada has. And it just so happens that those most powerful industries are all out west. And everybody out west, well, sure and hell didn't vote for the Liberals, the majority of them. We do have a few sycophants out here, a few, psychotic socialists out here. They do exist. They're not many. They're there. They wanted to throw us to the wolves again. They would rather crush the West than to have to actually deal with the problems that are creating all of this. How about start with the Eastern Milk Cartel? That would be a great negotiating tool. Why don't we actually get to the table and talk about having real free trade? Not free trade with all these different tariffs and all these different taxes and all these different legislations and you can't have that. That's not free trade. Since the get-go, we've never had free trade. It's just a propaganda word that they use, that they throw out there. This is what Alberta was worried about. And the media likes to little cut and edit sound bites and video clips. So I straightened that out, where of course CTV failed.
Meanwhile, Alberta is still seeing steady population growth, 200,000 more people last year alone. It means industries like construction are booming, but unemployment remains high.
And employers are becoming a little bit more cautious in their hiring. So we do expect that unemployment rate to be elevated this year before coming down gradually next year.
If there's going to be, protectionist policies globally, there's just so much uncertainty. And so businesses aren't investing.
And with deficits projected for the next 3 years, this finance minister has his hands full.
Now, why? Because the Liberals got voted in again, people. That's why they're worried in Alberta and Saskatchewan. Because they know no businesses are going to come because the Liberals haven't removed the same legislations that are shutting down not only the energy resources we have, they're stifling businesses. Businesses are fleeing, as I showed earlier in this episode. We're in a free fall. And what does Carney do? They pass legislation so that they can pick and choose what goes around and doesn't have to abide by the laws that everybody else has to abide by. This is socialism. The government is now picking winners and losers instead of letting the free market system do it for them. This is why we have no big tech companies. This is why we have our AI is pretty much shit the bed and gone. Nobody's left. It's because of these policies. It's because of this liberal socialist party.
We must be prepared to weather the storm.
Mark joins us
Yeah,
at Google Center.
weather the storm all right. Now, hello. Let's hear it from Daniel Smith.
We know costs are rising across Canada and times have been tight.
That's why Alberta's government has fast-tracked cutting your taxes when you need it most. Starting July 1st, over 2 million Albertans will pay less income tax on their paychecks. That means over the course of a year, you'll see $750 back in your pocket per taxpayer, or $1,500 per family. This is more than $1.2 billion in total tax relief for Albertans this year. This tax cut will help you meet today's challenges and plan for tomorrow. In Alberta, a promise made is a promise kept. This tax cut is your money. Back where it belongs.
Ta-da! Now imagine what tax cut they'd be able to actually go through with if we got rid of the Socialist Party. Separatism is real. The numbers are already out. I've already proven just in Saskatchewan alone, you could say goodbye to all the federal income taxes and Saskatchewan could still make surpluses. Imagine what you would do if you were only having to give away 20 to 22% of your income instead of almost 50. Imagine how great it would be for you, your purchasing power, your family, what you could do for your kids, for their education. Craziness. And then to the immigration aspect.
So what can Alberta do about the situation? Quite a bit, actually.
Before Albertans can respond to the provincial government's new online survey, a short video must be viewed. And in 4 minutes, its position on immigration becomes pretty clear.
Everyone wanting to come should be committed to upholding the Canadian values of hard work, love of freedom, and peaceful coexistence.
After the video says immigration is to blame for high housing costs and unemployment rates, it floats a solution.
If Alberta isn't satisfied with the number or kind of newcomers moving to our province, we may have the option to withhold provincial social programs
before asking respondents if they agree.
I think it's an attempt at a measured approach to curate growth only alongside the growth of public service.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says the survey results will help develop a series of questions to be put forward next year in a referendum, needed at a time when separatist sentiment is, according to the Premier, at an all-time high.
This is part of the reason for the Alberta Next process. We know that we have to be able to make a strong case for a united or a strong Alberta within a united Canada, but we also have to address the things that are causing the rise in that sentiment.
But the survey's narrative is concerning to those who work with immigrants, who say most newcomers arrive in Alberta with a work permit in hand.
I would suggest that the survey is very scapegoating.
Now, this is federal policy. That's the work permit. That's the reason the youth unemployment rate is well over 20%. You can literally be in India and take an ad to go work at a Tim Hortons or another business that is collecting government subsidies, come all the way to Canada and take a job that was never even advertised in Canada. Why? Well, I'd have to pay them, a solid wage, and then, all the rest of the crap that goes with it. Why would they do that when we can get $4 of their wage paid for by the government? So that's $4 saved to them. So instead of paying the 18, they're only paying 14. The government's matching the other $4. Plus, at the end, the company gets these little tax incentives. This is the replacement theory. This is the goal. This is propaganda. Not telling you the truth that I just laid out 12 minutes earlier in this episode. Propaganda.
It sounds like it's really not based on evidence or facts.
Calgary's lone Liberal MP, Corey Hogan, has concerns as well.
Lone Liberal MP.
The idea of there being tiers of immigrants should be concerning to Albertans. The idea that we are having this conversation in a fashion that is designed to get one outcome should be concerning for Albertans. And certainly I think Albertans deserve better from government consultations.
Alberta wants you. Alberta needs you.
It was just 3 years ago that Alberta launched a massively successful Alberta is Calling campaign to attract skilled workers from other parts of the country. The message from this...
other parts of the country. Don't worry, this last election, again, previous episodes, Canadians are just racing to get to Saskatchewan and Alberta, especially knowing that we could separate and be our own nation and not have to deal with losing to Liberals year after year after year. There were a lot of people commenting, some on this channel, lots on other platforms I'm on. They're like, I'm from BC, I'm from Nova Scotia, I'm from Prince Edward Island, I'm from... And they're like, we're coming. We can't put signs out and even be conservative without these Liberals just losing their minds. You can't talk facts to them. They just lose their minds. Socialism has taken right over. It's enveloped every single part of society. It's infiltrated our schools. It's in everything. People are fleeing. We don't need to have this whole immigration thing anymore. Literally, put ads out. There's so many people that are coming here. I'm hearing about it constantly every day from people all around me. I'm seeing all of the houses, especially Saskatchewan, where the housing rate never really got crazy, insane high like it did in a lot of the other countries, especially the big cities. They're selling. People are selling their houses in Ontario, coming down here, buying a nicer home, and still having $300,000 left over. Holy cow! Isn't life grand when you get away from socialism? And then everything is cheaper here as well. Holy cow. So, yeah, Canadian migration. We'll take as much of it as we can. No, I'm not anti-immigrant at all. But you just don't open the floodgates and allow everybody and anybody to come in, and especially pick, like the federal government, people who are coming from really chaotic countries. And a lot of them who are bringing with them anti-Canadian ideas. No, not like the government turd said, a Canadian isn't a Canadian isn't a Canadian. The world is a very different place. Canadians are a special breed of people.
New survey, it seems, Alberta's not calling some people anymore. Heather Yurex, West Global.
Which is a good thing. So I'm glad, again, libertarian, right? This is how you got to think of it. She's not saying no to immigrants from all around the world, but you pick the right ones. You go through a vetting process, something that Canada used to be admired from all around the world on our vetting process. Man, Canada had the greatest immigration system. It wasn't perfect, but it was sure close. And then socialism takes over a party, and the floodgates are open, and here we are. It's the demise. It is the replacement theory come to life. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I'm sorry I ran a little wee bit long. Again, I'd like to thank all the new subscribers. I got a whole pile here lately. Thank you so much. Hopefully I can keep you informed with sorry, just so sorry, just the facts, just the truth. And again, all of your comments, thank you all for your help. Obviously, this light isn't what I needed. I will be looking into. I don't make any money on the channel, guys, so I'm scraping nickels and dimes. Donations, I hate having to ask for it, but you can donate right there scrolling across the screen, Canadian Citizen Journal, or you can do it by wearing some of my groovy clothing. I've got lots more that's going to be released. I post that link down below as well. Like I said, whatever you can do. I know it's Canada, everybody's broke, but if you can, a penny's a penny. I'll take any bit that I can. And then, yeah, get a little wee bit of better lighting and the rest of it. Until the next time, you guys, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And if you are, punch that notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. I'm sorry I'm running a little wee bit late here today. I have my daughter down. I haven't seen her in way too long. We got carried away on the visit. So, anyways, happy to have her home. I only got her for a short time and then she's gone again. So I'm going to make the best of it. Until the next time, you've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, Alias Guy. Stay informed.